Before we get into it, quick reminder to smash that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we've got a lot more retro movie deep dives coming your way. Today we're heading back to the summer of 1962, or at least the movie version of it, for a look behind the curtain of one of the most quoted baseball movies ever made. Get ready, because some of this stuff is genuinely stranger than the film itself. Let's start with the ages. When David Mickey Evans first wrote the script, he pictured the whole gang as 9 and 10-year-olds, little kids just barely old enough to ride bikes across town without supervision. But once auditions started, reality set in fast. 9 and 10-year-olds looked too small on camera to carry the emotional weight of the story, so the production bumped the age range up to 12 and 13. It's a small change on paper, but it completely shifts the tone of the movie. A group of barely teenage boys smoking, cursing, and chewing tobacco reads very differently than a bunch of little kids doing the same thing. Speaking of the tobacco, that infamous carnival ride scene where the boys get violently sick wasn't just clever editing and good acting. The production actually had the boys chew real tobacco on set, and more than one of them ended up genuinely nauseous because of it. So when you watch that scene and think the queasy faces look a little too real, that's because they basically were. The vomit itself, thankfully, was fake, cooked up from a stomach-turning mix of split pea soup, baked beans, oatmeal, water, and gelatin. Not exactly appetizing, but a lot safer than the alternative. Then there's the story about Chauncey Leopardi, who played Squints. As the legend goes, Leopardi wanted a little something extra for keeping the rest of the boys in line and behaving on set, so he asked the cinematographer for a copy of a certain adult magazine that was popular at the time. Whether that actually happened the way it's been told over the years is a little fuzzy. Even Leopardi himself has said he can't fully confirm it, but he's also admitted it sounds exactly like something he would have done. The bond between Smalls and Benny feels so natural on screen that most viewers assume the two actors just clicked instantly. That wasn't left to chance. The director had Tom Guiry and Mike Vitar meet up and rehearse together weeks before the rest of the cast even arrived to start filming. It worked so well that the other kids on set genuinely believed the two of them had already been close friends for years. And here's the kicker, that friendship wasn't just for the cameras. Guiry and Vitar reportedly stayed in touch long after the movie wrapped. Now let's talk about the pool scene, the one everybody remembers, where Squints fakes drowning just to get a kiss from the lifeguard. Before they filmed it, the director gave Leopardi exactly one very specific instruction for the kiss, and it was simply to keep his tongue in his mouth. A pretty reasonable note to give a 12-year-old actor, but also proof that even the most iconic movie moments sometimes come down to one very awkward conversation between a director and a kid. Ham Porter's endless stream of trash talk during the game against the rival Little League team, all that rapid-fire heckling from behind the plate, wasn't scripted word for word. Most of it was improvised right there on the day of filming. The actor was just riffing, and the crew kept the camera rolling because it worked so well. And speaking of the crew, when the movie jumps forward for that dreamlike final sequence showing Benny playing professional baseball years later, a chunk of the players out on that field weren't extras at all. They were members of the actual film crew, thrown into uniforms and sent out to fill out the roster for a scene that only needed a few seconds of screen time. There's also a quiet little Easter egg buried inside Benny's dream sequence with Babe Ruth. In that scene, Ruth notices a baseball card sitting in Benny's room and asks if he can have it. The card is for Hank Aaron. If you know your baseball history, that's not a random detail. Ruth's all-time home run record stood untouched for over a decade after the era the movie is set in, until Hank Aaron finally broke it. It's a subtle little wink for anyone who happens to know their sports trivia, tucked into a scene that most viewers probably watched a dozen times without ever noticing it. Even the shoes got a second life because of this movie. The sneakers the boys wear throughout the film, PF Flyers, had faded out of the cultural spotlight by the time production started. After the movie came out and became a hit, the brand actually got a limited revival, riding the wave of nostalgia the film created almost by accident. Not everything about the production was perfectly polished, though. Eagle-eyed fans have pointed out that despite the story being set in 1962, Benny's bedroom features a pennant from a team era that didn't actually exist until years later. A tiny continuity slip that nobody involved seemed to catch until long after release, and one that longtime fans still love pointing out today. And through it all, that one line has outlived everything else about the movie. "You're killin' me, Smalls." For simple words, repeated constantly throughout the film, and somehow still one of the most recognizable lines in sports movie history more than 3 decades later. So that's the story behind the story, a movie about one perfect summer that turned out to have its own share of chaos happening just off camera. Which one of these caught you off guard? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more deep dives like this one, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next trip down memory lane.